Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the IVES number 70B3. This is a hinge pin doorstop from IVES. The 70 has not always looked like this design. This is a relatively recent design and is reflected in the catalog down below. The 70 at one time, and there was, I believe, an image of the original design down below, didn't feature this plastic sort of insert that's here that will pivot to give you better surface area when making contact with the casing. But nonetheless, the design and principle is the same, even though the shape is a little bit different. It's a hinge pin doorstop, and hinge pin doorstops are used primarily in residential applications where you have very light duty, very adult sort of operation over a door. They are really, in my opinion, just simply a band-aid when it comes to properly stopping a door that's going to have anywhere from 20 to 100 pounds, swinging up against the hinge pin style doorstop, is really not at all the proper way to stop a door. There is equipment for that. Those are overhead stops, and they're basically slide track mechanisms, and they will do the job predictably and reliably. The downside of those is the cost, generally, and to machine them into the door and frame in a concealed fashion, obviously, is usually well outside of the range of the skill set of the common, typical homeowner. When you're doing work on existing doors, you just want to have the door stop. Not going to put in a traditional floor stop or wall stop, and a hinge pin stop is sometimes the only way to make that happen within reason. So the trade-off is convenience, but it's not really intended to do the job when you're dealing with a heavy volume of use. And what I mean by that is while this hinge pin stop will, when it's installed and the door is opened, the door will stop against here. If my finger is the casing, it's going to make contact and stop, certainly. The door will stop here. The downside of this material is I have seen casing literally pivoted and racked off of the surface, and I've seen the face of doors punctured as a result of this material, and like in a hollow core door sense. I've had people call and say, "Well, I just punctured a face in my door because of the hinge pin doorstop. What do I do?" Well, the client knows they have to replace the door. And what could have happened is someone could have accidentally tripped into the door, or someone could have just knowingly pushed it too far, that sort of scenario. So be mindful that your point of contact is the rubber bumper on the face of the door, and then this pivoting piece of certainly rigid plastic for the casing is what's really going to stop the door. A very small surface area on both ends to keep I've seen them installed on 2'8" by 3'0" solid core wood doors. Not maybe the best idea if there's going to be some real movement on that door in the opening cycle. So people use them, however, because they do solve the problem in the sense of a door just kind of keeping it away from making contact with something else. So moving on, there is a link. There are two links below this video. Before we get that, let's get to those. Let's go over the extended description. It's a hinge pin doorstop. It's meant to ride through the pin in the hinge, on top of the hinge, and will act on that center axis of pivoting. When the door is pushed open, it will make contact with the casing and then, of course, stop the door. If this is the door in the closed position, the door is pushed open, and my hand is, of course, the jamb or the casing, it will the intent is that it will stop. This is adjustable from a 85 to 125 degree opening, and that's accomplished via how far you thread this post out, and this is the door portion. Used on hinged doors where the installation of a standard doorstop is not desirable. The reason that you may not be able to install a doorstop traditionally is because you may have a powder room and the door is a right-hand door and swings up, and if it goes far enough, it's going to make contact with the commode itself. There's no wall, there's no floor, there's no overhead stop, which is what there ought to be. And a hinge pin doorstop is kind of your line of last defense to prevent that door from making contact with the commode. Designed for narrow trim installation. Okay. Probably a reference to you know, the dimension from the hinge center line over to here, I would say that's not an insignificant dimension, but we'll go over that in a moment. High quality rubber bumpers. Shoulder on stud supports rubber through entire body for engineered cushioning. So this is the part number WS part 1075. This can be replaced, and there is a link below this video where you can purchase those. Given enough time, this rubber stop will fatigue. That's years down the road, but nonetheless, I'll have people that will order 100 of these when they are refitting. 100's extreme. However, in a large enough house, I suppose, and you want some extras, the original design would have 2 of these pads on either side. This would actually be attached over here as well. The new design, you obviously need just 1. This plastic part does not appear to be replaceable whatsoever. Removable bushing to accommodate 1/4 or 5/16 diameter hinge pins. This piece of plastic can come out, and we'll go over the size of that. The hinge pin that they're saying will fit in there will be either 1/4 inch or 5/16 diameter. Easy installation, sure. You're going to drive the pin out. You're going to place the pin through the hole with or without the bushing and seat that all back down. Your installation is complete. That's the side that goes towards the door, the threaded portion. Made of solid brass, aluminum, or epoxy-coated aluminum. This is, of course, solid brass. And that's the B3 in the part number. Solid brass, made of solid brass in a polished finish with a clear lacquer applied. Okay. And then that link to the replaceable rubber tip is down below. Let's take a look at the installation instructions. And they're simple and straightforward. They talk about, and that's an old document showing the original design of the 70. Well, let's just go with it for now. I had a thought that this might be the design when you're dealing with brass, and they may continue with that original design for aluminum-based material. So, step 1, assemble doorstop by pressing rubber tips onto the threaded and fixed doorstop arms and screw together. If any of this is disassembled, which I doubt it will be. Using screwdriver and hammer, carefully remove pin from top hinge. They want this installed in the top. I've seen it installed in the top, and that's where it goes certainly most commonly. I've also seen it installed at the bottom. I would probably opt for where it's going to be least conspicuous. You know, I might personally want them at the bottom only because I'm imagining the effectiveness of the unit. Well, they probably put it at the top because of the distribution of weight along the door, so that when you are opening the door, it will work as it's intended, engineered to cushion a little bit better when it's installed at the top. That's probably why they're installing it there. You've driven the hinge pin out. Not to worry about that. You might need to move the door a little bit when you tap that hinge pin back down to bring the barrels back into perfect alignment to draw your hinge pin down. Now, the ID of the bushing itself, that's indeed 0.253. So 0.253 is the ID of this bushing. So it's basically a 1/4 inch. The ID of it otherwise, without the bushing, 0.313. So that's where your 5/16 pin is going to come into play. And that means that it will handle both residential and commercial grade hinges. So be mindful that you'll be able to stick a commercial grade hinge, like a 4x4, you'll be able to put in there. I've had people even drill those out and put in larger pins, like for heavyweight hinges, which, you know, it's the wrong hardware altogether. Position doorstop on top hinge with threaded arm facing the door. Tap the hinge pin down using a hammer. If hinge pin is too large, remove the bushing. Okay, we've talked about that. Adjust stop for desired degree of angle. 85 to 125, I believe, is what that is. Then there's a link below this video to a document called Product Brochure, and that's going to show us a variety of stops. Now, in that catalog, the 69 is by far more common of a hinge pin doorstop. A lot of people like that design because you can mechanically set the degree of stop. You loosen that screw and you put the two plates together. They come together with a hole and dimple system and sort of lock in place and then tighten the screw, and it will keep it positively there. Same scenario with that bushing. It does have a removable bushing type concept. 2 different bumpers to be replaced eventually when they would need to, and they do with enough time. But you see the 70 on the next page, giving you all the same description of the item itself. The table down below shows the finishes that's available in the different base materials. So in a solid brass base material, you'll get B3 605 polished brass, B4 606 polished satin brass, B5 609 satin antique brass, forgive me, B10 or 612 satin bronze, B10B or 613 oil rub bronze, B15 satin nickel, which is a 619, B15A antique nickel, which is a 620 finish, B19 or 622 is black, B26 625 is polished chrome, B2060 or 626 is satin chrome, B716, that's going to be like a Venetian bronze type color, an antique bronze, not quite oil rub bronze, a little bit lighter. In aluminum, they can do a bunch of finishes: polished brass, satin brass, antique brass, satin bronze, oil rub bronze, polished nickel, satin nickel. A92 is like a zinc finish. That would be the least expensive of all. A716, white and then black, so 10 or 11 finishes in each. Then they can do over a zinc-based material. A brass look, a satin nickel look, a dark bronze look, and then that Z406E, not even sure what that is. That's got to be some sort of a chrome type look, would be my guess. I've never even seen that designation. The rest of the catalog will show you other hinge pin doorstops that are there. The 72 and 73, I rarely see them at all. I think the advantage of those would give you that significantly greater surface area that you're going to have when making contact with the casing. No rubber tip there. Again, the one you're going to see all the time is the 69, and then a distant second place would be the 70. Now, if you search the site by IVES 70B, it will come up with all of the different finishes that will be available that you can purchase. Finally, there is a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the IVES products that we sell, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. Any questions on the IVES? This is their part number 70, B, and the B stands for brass, and a 3 finish, which is polished brass, or any other IVES product. Please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.